Okay, we are now recording and welcome. We're so excited to have an event specifically. It's titled Parenting in the Pandemic, and it's very relevant. I mean, obviously, because we are in a pandemic, but more importantly, this is a huge issue that we need to tackle on. And I think parents more and more need to hear answers, tips, helpful advice, and that's why we set this up. Mary Dominguez, a parenting expert, is here. I'm going to give an introduction. My name is Alejandra Aguilera. I'm going to be the host today. I'm going to give introductions, and then we'll let the guest speaker, Ms. Dominguez, start, and then she'll answer any questions, and we will then just pretty much have a Q&A session. We will record the event so that later on, if you want to revisit the video or if you want to send it to a friend, you can always do that. We're going to have some great tips, so I'm very excited to get started. So Ms. Mary Dominguez is an emotional wellness expert and parent coach. She's the CEO of Parenting Moments, bridging the gap to strengthen the connection between parents and their teens through tools and community resources that ease the parenting journey. She's a professional speaker, and she promotes emotional resilience and delivers parent workshops and virtual programs. Mary is also an international best-selling author who recently released her new book, which I'm very excited about, Influential Parenting. She holds a specialist degree in educational leadership and several coaching certifications as a former Miami-Dade County public school teacher of 24 years and a mother of two. She's determined in making an impact across the world in helping families thrive. So let's welcome Ms. Dominguez, who's going to start and give her talk. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alejandra, for that warm welcome. And thank you for all of you who have taken and made this decision to, take moments of your busy schedule and watch this webinar. I know that what more can you hear about the pandemic? And unfortunately, we're still challenged with the pandemic. I mean, it hadn't been, I remember a year ago, it was not a thought. And then all of a sudden, it just became something that, okay, maybe we were going to be for a few days. Those few days has turned almost into a year. This is just amazing and unfortunate for many families as well. So it has been a lot of emotions, a lot of mixed emotions. And thank you, Alejandra, for this, just for providing and allowing this platform in order for us to share information to parents. So I want to share this presentation. It's a parenting in a pandemic, and it's mainly focused on our emotions. It's really because one of the things that this pandemic has done for us is really stirred up a lot of emotions, especially for those families who were not used to being home all the time. You're a busybody and you're just everywhere all the time, and people that work long hours away from home, and all of a sudden it's like we went into this shutdown, and many businesses, it literally, just they stayed down. Many families have also been impacted economically and for so many reasons. Schools with, parents deciding to keep their kids from school and just having them, doing the distant learning. And I think it's been a major shift in lives globally. And not, it's not just, there's in every person that I've, talked to, they've had to shift something. I think very few people could say, oh no, nothing's changed, because even people that were already working remote, they've had to adjust. So once again, thank you. And already Alejandra did a beautiful introduction of me, but this is me. And just want to tell you a little fun fact about me, aside from being a teacher for years to that, because I know that there's so much support that we can provide to parents. And I just felt calling. I felt that it was so important to be that source, to that person that had solutions, and if I didn't have the solutions, I was willing to go out and get them, and here I am. I love to dance. One of the things that I really am passionate about doing for fun is dancing. I also when the time permits, I love to go to the beach and just experience the water. And I love shoes. I have to admit, I can't have enough shoes. So if you're with me on that, moms, yes, even my husband's like, how many pairs of shoes do you need? And I tell you, sometimes even here at home, I'm wearing just nice shoes, even if it's just for a little while, just because, who's wearing shoes now? It's just you're in your flip-flops all day if you're home. So once again, one of my biggest things that I love, 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 love to do is spend time with my family. I think that whenever I have an opportunity to see my kids smiling and we get to spend time together. Now they're adults. I have, I'm thinking already, my youngest is 20 and my oldest is 30. So, wow, time flies. Well, speaking of emotions, these are so many emotions that triggered, and all of these emotions can really make your home a havoc. And this is why it's so important to understand that although we intend to be happy, we have to know that it's important that we manage, that we process our feelings, that we express our feelings in healthy ways. So this, and I want to also share with Alejandra, I know that you've invited me here on this webinar, so this is going to be a two-way street. So at any point, if anyone has any questions, or Alejandra, if you want to be as a host, you'll be the spokesperson for any questions that come up. By all means, don't let me talk all day because, hey, it's a teacher in me. I can't go on. Well, I'm going to start by asking, how do you feel? And Alejandra, I'm going to ask you that question. How do you feel today?
I feel tired.
Tired. Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Is that one of the options? Exhausted?
You know what? Just because it's not one of the pictures here doesn't mean that it's not an option. Definitely an option. And I have an iPhone and I see all the emojis that are there, and I think they keep adding little faces. Some of faces, I still don't have a clue on what they mean, but I know that there is an emotion connected to every of those faces, and tired is absolutely one that's acceptable. And I know what it is to feel tired. So can anyone relate to tired? Yes, even around this time, tired, whatever time it is. And the truth is that many people behind the smile, they hide a lot of emotions. We get to see the tip of the for many people. And whether we're walking into the office or even at home, we see our spouse, we see our kids, and we ask very quickly, how are you? And how often hasn't asked you that question and they haven't stopped to hear the answer? They assume already you're going to say, oh, I'm fine. Or maybe you'll say, mumble it, oh, fine, thank you, just walk away. And we have, just missed that opportunity to really feel the emotion. So thank you for being so vulnerable and being so truthful. Hey, I'm actually tired. And that is when we are experiencing an emotion and we're able to feel comfortable to talk about it. So yeah, so all of these emotions also are part of an everyday life. And especially now during the pandemic, we still don't know what will happen. If our businesses, if they were thriving and things have changed, or maybe your business is thriving now because you've pivoted in an amazing way. And even that can cause a lot of overwhelm, because for some people, they to a certain pattern and all of a sudden they have an influx of business and I don't have the man. What do I do? I duplicate myself. So we have to be aware of what are these emotions that are playing in our heads and in our children's heads. So as parents, I think it's very important also to know a little bit about statistics, because it's intricate that we understand that there are mental disorders that have always been present, but now because of the situation and more people are starting to talk about it, I guess it's almost like releasing that stigma where it's not something that you should be afraid to share, to talk about it, and really just to explore. Okay, so this is some information where even when I did and I talked to others about it, it's just to let you know that if this is you, you're not alone. So 9.4% of children between the ages of 2 and 17 are diagnosed with ADHD. So they're hyper and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what is this? Why is it just my kid? Well, you're not alone. 7.4 of children, 3 to 17, that's approximately 4.5 million have been diagnosed with behavior problems. So these are, again, you're not alone. 7.1 with anxiety, 71%. So that's approximately 4.5 million just in the US. And 3.2 children between the ages of 3 and 17, they've been diagnosed with depression. And this number is said that now within this past year has actually increased. This chart is actually just a little bit of a visual for those of you who are visuals of what the numbers look like in charts. And you see that the anxiety level, especially if you have teenagers, you know, the tween, middle school and high school years, it's up there, it's high. This is real. And so often I talk to parents and they're like, I don't know what's wrong with my kid. You know, I didn't have any of these worries when I was their age. It's 2021. So emotional awareness, and we're going to just talk a little bit about emotional awareness. I'm going to be sharing these slides with you, and then at the end, we're going to open with just for some Q&A. I know that Alejandra has already gotten a few questions, and some on my end, so we'll share those. So it's important to really gain that emotional control. We're going to talk about a little bit about emotional literacy, just understanding what emotions look like and how to understand the other people's emotions, and communicating our emotions so that you're not just saying I'm fine. There are many things that can trigger emotions, and now we've been seeing a lot of this. As a matter of fact, Alejandra, maybe you can chime in here just for a moment in regards to this. I know for a fact that there is a trend in divorce because of this pandemic. Do you find that in your practice? I'm curious because I know you are an amazing attorney. You deal with litigation with families, and definitely as far as your experience. Can you add a little bit to this?
Yeah, thank you for those kind words. But yes, I've seen since the pandemic an increase in divorce cases, domestic violence cases, and just altogether family cases because, you know, when you're in close quarters at home in quarantine, things are tough, you know, with tensions rising. So what I'm seeing is a lot of that coming into my office, and we, you know, we resolve those cases, but it's concerning because I'm not seeing it die down. It's actually getting worse.
Mm. Yes, it is getting worse, and thank you for confirming, because I read it, and also, I mean, I have calls sometimes, and unfortunately sometimes people just wait. I really believe in prevention, and once like the emotions that are, we have to address them, and so often we just not to address them. We're like, you know what, maybe it'll pass, maybe this person will change, maybe it's just now, whatever it is. And then as we bottle up all of these emotions, it gets to the point where you can't anymore. Or like, just think of a pressure cooker, and if you leave that cooker, it's gonna dry up. Or if you just put too much in it, no matter how tight that is, it's just gonna start escaping from somewhere, and eventually it can pop. So this is what happens with the families. So I find that it's important that we understand where we are in our emotions, and once we create that awareness, we can seek the proper support. And I tell you, support is so important. And I believe that there's so much power in being vulnerable. When you tell someone, I'm just exhausted today, or today I'm very upset, something happened, and I'm feeling this certain way. Remember, this is something that you are feeling. These are things that are temporary. So it's not where I find so often people are thinking, well, I just want to create positive thoughts, and that's all great. But sometimes we're just all into, okay, I just want to think positive and say positive things, and I don't want to bring any negative energies. But we can't dismiss what's real. The fact that you are feeling it, that you experience it, it's okay. You have to understand that it's an emotion, and where the support comes in is shifting it in the right way. So, and you this high energy. This is sometimes, you know, we use this as a survival zone, or we can use this in performance zone. And what is survival? Exactly that. I'm going to operate in this high energy because if I don't do it as a mom, it's not going to get done. And how many moms out there are feeling this? They're like, no, no, I have to be the one to cook, to clean, to put everything together, because if I leave it up to them, it's just a mess. And sometimes we're not even giving them the opportunity. You know, we're just taking it upon ourselves. And guess what? Your kids are smart, your husband's smart, or your wife, if you're a husband, you know, they're like, you know what, if they're doing it, okay, they're good. And we don't speak up. We're just like doing this, and you're just, you know, your face is all changing, and you just go to bed and you wish that everything would stop. So at that point, that high energy, you're getting done everything fast, and it's in survival zone. Sometimes we can shift that into a performance zone. So you are very high energy, and take that high energy that you have and put it in positive things that are actually going to support your health, your well-being. So maybe exercising, just doing something in your performance zone, or even if it's in your business, or something that's really going to edify you, that's going to put you in a better position and not necessarily wear you down. So when it gets to a point where you're like low energy. So no matter what, you're going to get tired. So what does that look like? Does your tired look like I'm burned out? Does your tired look like, oh, this is my signal, I need to rest? And some people will stay in that burnout zone. They'll be like, I'm tired. I know I'm burned out, but I have to keep going. And you keep going on empty. Has that ever happened to you, Alejandra?
Every day. Every day I feel tired, but you know what? Yes. It's like, but you have to know what you're feeling. So when I get to that point, I know I need to take a break.
Exactly. So that's where your recovery zone comes in. And notice this part of recovery zone brings energy. Once you know you take a break, you know that maybe you'll see the signs. Maybe you just snapped at one of your kids, or you snapped at your significant other, and you're like, whew, okay, don't take it personal. I just had a really hectic day. I love you. I just need 15 minutes and I need to recover. And trust me, once they see that puts you in a positive energy, then they will applaud that. It's going to be like, maybe you need to be in your recovery zone. So I invite you, as one of if you're a parent, this burnout sensation, there's your countdown. Give yourself permission to pause. Give yourself permission to pause. And okay, so another thing that I also encourage a lot is conversation. And when you are having a conversation, it's not always about, and this is tough because I come from a Hispanic background where we call it quote unquote consejos. So we always have a little consejito, a little advice for everything. And automatically as parents, we just want to be the problem solvers, and our kids want to maybe say something to us, and we're like, oh, yep, that happened to me. This is what I should, and we just don't give them the opportunity to say, well, look, this happened. Let me tell you how I solved it. They may have solved it already, and here we are trying to solve it. So take the opportunity of conversation to listen. As a matter of fact, make it like your little recovery zone as well. Okay, it's my moment. Be here present and be an active listener. Being an active listener means you make eye contact, you encourage that. Let me tell you what for many years I called active listening. It's like this. Yeah, okay. No, I'm listening. I'm doing a few things while I'm listening. So active listening is that you're doing something while you're listening. Active listening is allowing the speaker to know that you care about what you're hearing. And if you're doing something else, then you're not active listening. Okay, you're taking action while hearing a voice. So just stop what you're doing. And if you don't have the moment to stop at the second, just let your kid or your spouse know, hey, I need 5 minutes. I'm going to send out the last email, have my undivided attention. But conversation is so important. Alejandra, I'm curious, how many people come into your office with that complaint as far as my husband doesn't listen to me, like when they want no divorce, when they're at that point, what's usually one of the biggest complaints? I'm curious.
When they come into my office, it's usually that they've already tried that and it's just not working. So there's no talking involved at all.
There's no talking, there's no listen. Yes, once it gets to that point, you've already tuned out, and unfortunately, we have to, sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes you don't want to hear. Sometimes you want to listen. Like sometimes you feel like, I've had a long day, I really don't want to listen. But that's what it comes to being a parent. When being a parent is simple, but it's not always easy. It's simple tasks that are going to make a big difference. And sometimes we fail at those simple tasks because we're not intentional about it. So the same way that sometimes you don't want to wake up to go to work or get on the next Zoom, then that's the same way. Sometimes it's almost like your kids are talking to you and you're like, okay, don't talk to me about a TikTok video. Like, I don't hear about it. But you know what? The moment that's creating an emotion with them, that's creating an opportunity for connection. And if it takes a TikTok video of somebody that's opening a jar, I don't know, and it cracks them up, then enjoy the fact that you get to see them laugh and create a different perspective in your head as opposed to this kid. And I'm not saying that you have to stop everything you're doing all day, but just be intentional. Maybe if you're very busy, create some special time to say, listen, 6 o'clock is yours. And doesn't mean you can't talk to me at 5, but you know that you're not going to do anything at 6, that time is theirs. There's a very easy, talking about simple activity that I love to share. And Alejandra, if you do this with me, this is called the Calm Palm. I know Alejandra's a mom of 3. That is exciting, 3 kids. How does it feel to be a mom of 3, Alejandra?
Oh, tired. That's all I can say, I'm tired.
The word of the day is tired. Well, when you're feeling tired and you're feeling like you're maybe at this point when you're about to just lose it because it happens, then I recommend the Calm Palm. So the Calm Palm, you just take your hand, take your opposite finger, and you're going to trace your hand. And every time you go up, you're going to breathe in through your nose. Every time you go down, you breathe out through your mouth. So it takes about like a 4-second breathe in and out through your mouth. And notice that when you're breathing in, your tummy kind of just pops out a little bit. That might take a little exercise for another day. And when you breathe out, your tummy just kind of concaves. It comes in a little bit. Okay, so just you're aware, just make awareness of that. And keep just tracing your finger in and out, up and down. And you can do this with your kids too. Like you can teach them. And in and out, just breathing. And you can actually do that both ways, both directions.
About breathing.
Be calm. I know sometimes we don't give ourselves time to intentionally breathe. And that is a sad thing because we're already thinking about what's next. So I have to do something. What's next? Take time to breathe, because what that does is that it helps your brain go back to its normality. Our brain is constantly shooting, just neurons, and we don't exercise our opportunities to build more dopamine, which are those happy hormones in our brain. And our amygdala, which is always on fire, is kind of thinking, okay, what's next? Are we fighting somebody? Do we have to, am I afraid of something? It's out to get something. So that calm, that breathing allows your brain to say, I've got this, everything is okay, and you're gonna get through this, whatever it is. And if you see also on the slide, I've put words to each finger, and this is a Chinese practice, which I thought was very neat, and it really helps. Whenever you're experiencing these emotions, such as anxiety, you can press on the tip of your finger, right on the sides, and that actually helps calm the anxiety, because those neurotransmitters go right through your brain, and it releases those hormones, those chemicals into your brain that eases that anxiety. Right here, this finger, your pointer is fear. Your middle finger is anger. Don't ask me how that worked. It did. That explains the birdie.
Yeah.
And your ring finger is sadness. And your little pinky is self-respect. And that comes with self-love, self-care. When you notice that you're probably just saying yes to everybody, if you're a people pleaser, just remember you need to respect yourself and your own boundaries. And just press and say, you know, I'm not going to go. I wish I could, but I can't make it. It's okay. And allow yourself to feel. That's an invitation. So often we are told, oh, don't feel that way. Oh, you're just over exaggerated. Oh, whatever. It's okay. It's your feeling. You own it. The length of time that you want to stay there, it's absolutely up to you. You don't have to stay there for hours and days. You can. And if you're experiencing that, I invite you to seek support. That's where, you know, you would call someone like me. And I always advise, you know, to call someone that is not in your same position, or maybe even like a best friend. Sometimes we call on those people, but they want they want to make you feel good, and they're just going to tell you, oh girl, just forget about it. Oh guy, you know what, just do this, do that, and it's just dismissing it. So you really want to be able to address it, like, why is it really affecting me, and give yourself time to process it. So that's why we seek the professional help. One thing that really has worked for me and for many of my clients is journaling. And keeping a journal provides you that opportunity to express yourself, maybe something that you're not ready to tell somebody else, but the fact that you're putting it on paper allows your brain to process what's going on. So it's almost like having that conversation, but you're writing it down, you're releasing it, and sometimes your journaling might be like, I've had people tell me, I don't know what to write on my journal today. That literally could be the sentence for your journal. I do not know what to write on my journal today. Today, I'm just so tired. And you can just, that's it, you know, and I'm done. And you can write just 2 sentences and just think back. Sometimes I look back on my journal and I'm thinking, okay, just the other day, I said 2 years ago, where I was, and I'm reading my journal. I was like, wow. And I also put prayer into my journal as well. And I'm thinking, wow, look at this. I was praying about this, and I actually got that. 2 years ago, I was praying about my book, and I'm like writing the name of my book in my journal, and my book is here, you know? So you get to see what your progresses are when you're journaling, and you also get to see what are the things that you're still in. Like, wow, 2 years ago, I was, you know, writing about why my husband and I are not, don't date. We don't have fun together anymore. If you're having that problem, 2 years ago, and you're still having that problem, well, maybe it's time to address it. So journaling is great. And find a special place. Even through the pandemic, I have to tell you that you get to be so creative in what your special place looks like. What is your special place? I love to go out into nature, and I have a park very close, so I can actually walk there. And sometimes I just, go take my dog, and I'm there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, just walking around, feeling the breeze. And that has become my special place. Like, I used to think, my special place is being in the beach in Colombia, or whenever I go to Hawaii, like, those are my special places. But your special place literally could be even at home. And for your kids, I always, have a place that you can call yours, whether it's the bathroom, and if you want to paint a wall in the bathroom, or if it's a chair that you have in your bedroom and it's a special chair, like nobody sits in that chair. It's a comfy chair. I mean, you can go to, your a home goods store and just pick out a chair that really just maybe matches or doesn't match your furniture, and just let it stand out somewhere. And whenever you're there, your special place. You picture it and visualize it however you want. Guess what? Your brain will believe whatever you tell it, the good or the bad. So if you tell them, every time I sit in this chair, I feel like I am in Hawaii, I'm going to have my special chair. You see it has things, and
Oh,
it's
yeah,
soft,
definitely.
so soft, and like I didn't need a chair, but I liked it, so I and it's okay to gift yourself. Sometimes I think, well, I'm in a budget, I'm not gonna. I mean, you can go to even a consignment store, thrift shop, and pick something out. Even make it a project with your kids. Like I've seen, you know, refurbishing one of something that you already have and painting it. You can get very creative, putting a little curtain, or just have something, a special picture, something that you know that you're calling it yours. I guarantee that once you create that a habit, whenever you're there, emotionally, you will be in a good space. Alejandra, I'm not gonna put you on the spot. You don't have to tell me how often you exercise, because I know you've been saying you're tired. But exercise, I will tell you that I don't get around to it every day. I miss doing this more often because I used to teach Zumba and I would exercise every day. And now sometimes I get busy and I'm like, oh, I'll do it later. It doesn't happen. So the best thing is find out what's the best time for you and do it in the morning. Maybe that can be part of your morning routine. And don't think that you have to go out and, you know, get a gym membership. You can come up with a little very 10-minute routine that you could do at home just to get your body moving. Just stretch. So if you're watching this, this is your moment to just do a stretch, and let's stretch together. Okay, so you're gonna stretch your arms and just pull them forward. And just take a moment, because I told you we're going to be doing and interacting. So this is a moment to interact. And whatever you're doing, whether you're multitasking, to stop, put it down. Unless if you're driving, don't stretch. Just pause it. Do it later. And take your arms back and just make sure that your shoulders are nice and open. And roll your shoulders back, your arms, and make sure you're breathing. And I don't know, every time I do this, I get goosebumps. Like I start breathing and just like, oh, my body's like, oh, yes. And this helps you release tension, because we carry a lot of tension. And depending on the emotion that you are carrying, you're gonna feel certain areas of your body with more of that tension. So here, if you have a tendency to think a lot, to worry, things that you're just putting, you'll feel it, like either it'll show up as a, or it'll go to the back of your neck area. If you are constantly stopping from speaking, maybe you feel like, oh, I don't want to talk, I don't want to get into an argument, and you constantly stop yourself from speaking out. And sometimes, you know, you might feel like this area a little sore as well. And it's good to stretch it, and you cannot, it's a self-care. So you can actually get rid of you know, stretch out your neck area, get rid of your ankles, and at the same time,
Oh, that felt good.
open your vocal cords. And yeah, and if you're,
I'm doing my neck.
yes, that's great. You do your neck, it helps that area. So a lot of times, you know, especially if you're in some sort of work that is very tense and you just wish you could tell people, but you can't tell everything that you need to say, you're like, and then you keep it. And so you'll notice a tension is going to go here and it's going to reflect back here. If money is an issue, a challenge, you know, things, you know, maybe you wanted to take on vacation and now they're not even allowed returning your money, whatever it is, however money shows up to you. If that's an issue, you might feel it in your lower back. Just stretch that area and just, everything's going to be okay. You're in the perfect space, the perfect time. And just twist very gently to one side and the other. And if you're in a position to bring your knees up, then you can bring your knees towards you. And that also helps that area right of your pelvic area, which a lot of times we hold there our own personal emotions, you know, and our intimacy. So it's good to open that area and know that you are safe. So just let yourself know you are safe. And your just kind of switch your feet to go in one direction and the other, and wiggle your toes and breathe. All right, so you see we've exercised just a couple of minutes. How do you feel, Alejandra?
Much more relaxed.
Great, great, great. Okay, so we're almost wrapping up. And sleep. How many hours of sleep do you get? I tell you that this number changes for many people depending on the time of the year, of their work. So many things can affect this number, getting proper sleep. And I want to tell you that at least, the very least, you should be getting 5 hours of sleep. So this is the very least, 5 hours. And the average person should be into 7 and 8 hours. Okay, so that's average is 7 to 8, but at least 5. So if you're not getting consecutive, 5 hours full sleep, not that you're waking up every hour and then that amounts to 5, but that you're going to bed and waking up and you gave yourself that sleep, then you are very prone to getting mental exhaustion. And I'm gonna just tell you very briefly that I had an episode this summer, me. And I say me because even me as a parenting expert, as an emotional wellness coach, if I don't take care of myself, then I too can have episodes. So imagine if someone that doesn't take care of themselves. So even though it's just the same way that you can have delicious meals all week, if one day you decide not to eat, you'll be hungry that day. So we have to make it a habit that we do things daily. So this summer, I had an episode where I was, pivoting in my business and making changes. I used to do presentations at the schools. The schools were they were all closed and we weren't going into the schools. So I started doing everything, just transitioning everything into online. Like, how do I transition to make my business just operate from online? And I would just work hours, and I would wait till my kids, my daughter was going to sleep and my husband would go to sleep. And I'm like, okay, now if the house is quiet, I'm going to work. And literally by the 4th day, I wasn't sleepy. I was staying awake. I was on coffee. And yes, my creative juices were flowing. But by the 5th day, I was losing it. Like the most that I got was like an hour sleep. And that kept going where I lost my appetite. And I was 12 days without sleeping. 12 days. The doctors couldn't believe it. Like I don't know. I mean, I'm alive because it's a miracle. And I know that what I do with working with parents is what I'm meant to do because I survived that. And I want to, I'm sharing this with you and I'm being very vulnerable because the fact that I experienced this puts me in a position where I know what it is to be so stressed. I know what it is to be so exhausted. I know what it is to have a huge goal and an audacious goal that you feel unstoppable, but nothing can really take place of your rest. No matter how unstoppable you feel, no matter how your creative juices are flowing, no matter what is coming to you, trust me, even God rested. So give yourself permission to rest properly. And when I was in the hospital, all my organs, they were shutting down. My kidneys were shutting down. My liver, it had cirrhosis. It was like, I drink maybe one drink every, 3 months or so, like a coconut mojito. And the doctor's like, are you a heavy drinker? And I said, no. And it was because I wasn't sleeping. So don't take this lightly. Sleep. And encourage your kids to sleep as well. Take their cell phones out of their room, put them to charge somewhere else, and ensure that you value the sleep. Well, and speaking of kids, just encouraging you to share time together. Trust me, your kids are going to be kids, and that time goes by so fast. I mentioned in the beginning of this webinar that my kids are 20 and 30, and I still remember when they were children, just running around and playing with dolls. And I think back, especially with my oldest daughter, because I had her so young, I was always, just trying to move ahead and always working. And my oldest daughter, I decided to start my own business. I left my work And even though I was a teacher at her school and we drove to school every day, interesting, she told me that she never felt more connected with me when we stopped working and really made time for her. And that really just touched my heart, because sometimes we take on responsibilities because we want to give our kids the best. We want to buy things. We want to give them, we want to give them what we didn't have. At the end of the day, your kids, what they need the most is you. So share time with them. Even if that means I'm saying no to one job, they need you. So this is pretty much the wrap up of the tips. Whether your kids are, at home and still doing online learning, just make sure that you talk to them. The question that I asked, how are you today? Today, that means that you are aware that today they feel one way and tomorrow feel another way. So when you say, how are you? That's okay. When you're saying today, I know that your feelings can change every single day, even from one moment to the next. Your kids are growing, their brains are developing. Don't be surprised if in an instant, they're like the most nicest people, and all of a sudden it's like, you have two heads. It happens. Encourage them to have healthy meals. We are what we eat. So make sure that you're the one that's grocery shopping, mom. So don't say, oh, my kids, all they eat is chips. Well, who's buying the chips? Come on now. So you're home, make sure that you're buying healthy meals for your kids. And even if they're home, make sure that they're getting dressed, that they're dressed for school. Don't just keep them in your pajamas all day. The pandemic, I know that part is cool. You're like, oh, I don't even have to get dressed. But your body needs that. It's just part of that self-care. So let them see you get dressed and you get dressed as well. And be there for them. Be there for them. Be there, involved in their schooling. And even if you don't know how to work that algebra problem, it's okay. They'll explain it to you. But just having that opportunity to exchange information, not that you're doing the homework for you, especially those with little kids. Let me tell you, that's another conversation for another day. Continue to wear your mask. We're still in a pandemic. And yes, they kept there. You can get very creative with your mask, but don't mask your real emotions. Just understand that you're not alone and there are people out there that care. Take time to find who they are. The type of help that you need is available. I put here on this slide the number to the suicide prevention line, and also 911, obviously, if it's an emergency. And I have a special gift. If you're watching this webinar, if you go on my website, parentingmoments.com, you can book a discovery call, a clarity call. This is a complimentary call. Normally, I just provide 20 minutes, but if you mention this webinar, then I'm going to extend that time for you so that you can leave with a real strategy, with a real tool that you can implement. And I can't wait to meet you and support you in your parenting journey. I didn't get much to talk about my book, but we have a couple of more minutes. And Alejandra, I'm gonna open it up just for you right here, and questions, and also some tips. A lot of things that I said, they come from my book, just so you know. So if you have any questions, you can get the book on Amazon. It's called Influential Parenting. And it's a book that what I call the SMART manual, and SMART is an acronym for self-managing and raising teens for success. So you gotta manage yourself first.
I like that. That's great. Thank you so much, Mary. That was amazing. We do have some questions. You did mention about sharing time together with your kids. If you can give us maybe some ideas on how to do that specifically with teenagers who hate to hang out with mom and dad. Well, mine do. I don't know. They're not even teenagers yet. They still want nothing to do with me.
Right. Well, that's an excellent question. And, Alejandro, what do your kids like to do?
Watch TV.
Watch TV.
Get bothered. Yeah.
Okay. So the interesting thing about, even taking time together, and I count the times even when I'm sitting down watching something that I don't care to watch, but just the fact, and I'm not going to ask a million questions because I've learned that too, but just being there where you're just sharing that that moment with them. And also, have a conversation. Hey, I'm going to spend I want to take this time to watch your favorite show. Can we go to the park after? Can we, like, ask them what is something and give them choices? Because I find that it's not that they mind doing things with us, because I mean, literally, I took a survey of close to 200 students. These are all teenagers. And I asked, how many of you like to spend time with your parents? And interestingly, I think all but 3 of them were like, they didn't mind. They like to spend time. However, they didn't like that the parents were the ones imposing what they had to do. And that was the difference. So if you tell them, okay, we're going to go do this, they're dragging. But if you make a plan about it, just like, hey, what do you think? Do this or this, and give them those choices. And your kids, so just watch them and listen to them and see what it is that they enjoy doing. You may have to bring, if it's safe, someone else, and it's okay. I think at the end of the day, you remember I used to be a mom sometimes, because I was like, okay, you know what, fine, let's go. We'll all go hang out together, and it didn't bother me, because later on, like that person was telling my daughter, oh my gosh, your mom's so cool, this is great. And then she gets to see me in a different light. So take advantage of those opportunities. Sometimes we just want to be like, it's just for me. And it's just sharing what they like to do too. So just find out what that is and do it, even if you don't want to.
That's a great idea. I'll do that. Another question that we have is, what are signs or maybe tips of what we should be looking out for, to see if your kid has signs of depression or mental health issues?
That's an excellent question, Alejandra. And I will tell you that many times these signs are missed because they're so similar to the way teenagers are, the stereotype of teenagers. They don't want to talk. They're withdrawn. They want to stay in their room. They're just on their phone. They're not talking to anybody. So these are things that sometimes when we talk to other people, they're like, oh, don't worry about it. They're just being a teenager. And it's important that we have the conversations. Remember the slide with the dad talking to the daughter. And if you create that habit where you're having conversations, it's easier to now realize, okay, my son or my daughter is really withdrawn because we haven't been talking, and we used to do that. And so if you are not used to doing this, then maybe you can start with letting them know, hey, I want to start a new, just something different. I wish, we talked more, and how about we call it our 10 minutes of talk. 10 minutes of talk. And whether it's while I'm driving you to school or whether it's right after dinner, we both put our phones down, and it's 10 minutes of anything goes. You can ask me a question, I can ask you a question. And once at the beginning, they might be like, this is dumb. But once you create that habit, it's very interesting, but they'll adapt. And if you notice that they're, a lot of times, we can see their posture too, like, they start walking like this, they're always, sad. Ask them, and don't take this for an answer. They might not want to talk about it, but you can ask them this. Hey, how are you feeling today? Okay. You look a little down, do you want to talk about it now or later? And that now or later is already letting you know you're going to talk about it. It's just you're giving them the space to decide when. Because when we say we want to talk about it, you can expect them to say no, and then we have to respect that. We're like, okay, they said no, and later on when you want to talk about it, say, I already told you I don't want to talk about it. So you're invading that. But if you ask them, hey, do you want to talk about it now or later? They'll be like, no, not now. Okay, so we'll talk about it later when you feel up to it. And it opens that space to let's address it again. And don't give up. Really keep asking, let them know, share statistics with your kids. Look, these are how many kids are through this. I want to know, just whatever's going on with you, let me know, because I don't want to be part, ever for you to feel that you're part of the statistic. I'm here for you. So just that communication is so important.
Those are good tips. Thank you. And I'm going to have one last question here since we're already at the end. It's going to be 7 o'clock soon. Just if you can point out who should reach out to you, who should call you, and when?
Question. Well, I'd really encourage you to reach out if you're a parent of a middle or high school student. I think that just the conversation alone, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And I think that that's the case. Perhaps maybe some things that you have not thought about. And I have worked with people who they've reached out and maybe for that general conversation, and they realize, wow, that's something that I'm not doing for myself. I'm not doing that with my teenager. And one of the things that we do also through Parenting Moments is we provide resources, community resources. We connect people and parents to things that are going to make their life simpler, and whether that might be tutoring, it might be counseling, it might be summer job, just what are those things that your kids are looking for, even community service hours, like how does my kid get community service hours? And those conversations really just sometimes lead into deeper conversations. So I advise you that if you're a parent of a middle school or high schooler, you're not alone. Don't feel that you're emotional and it's not happening to everyone else. It is. So reach out. I have on this slide right there is my Instagram account and also my website. My email is mary@Parenting Moments. And I encourage you to book the advantage of that free call that I'm gifting to you. And I'm also going to gift tools. So if by any moment that you watch this, if you're watching the replay or you're here live, then just send me a DM to Parenting Moments and just say gift. Send me your email and I will email you your tools that can really help you implement some strategies at home so that you can build that connection and more conversation at home with your kids.
Thank you so much, Mary. And we'll definitely be posting this on all our social media so that we can get the word out. And we definitely want as many people as possible to get these great tips. So thank you so much for your time. And I think that's it for the night.
Yes, and I want to say to you, Alejandra, thank you so much once again for inviting me. Thank you for what you do for families. I know that sometimes, parents may come to you and it's especially when you're going through a divorce or any kind of litigation that's, involving the family, it really takes a toll. It takes a toll on your mental wellness, on your body, on just so many emotions that are stirred up. And if that's you, I want to invite you to a conversation. I know that with Alejandra, you're in such great hands, and everything. We always want to say, this happens for a reason. This is whatever you're going through right now is part of a bigger plan. So just don't go through it alone. We're here for you. Thanks, Alejandra.
Great tips. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.